Ask Tom on Home Show.
Carol from Porter, Texas has a question about decking direction.
Yeah, he's building his 32 by 70 retirement home, Tom. And Carol writes, half will be a living space. It's a DIY project now, so listen what he's up against. He says, my question is about roof decking with radiant barrier. LP looks like it only comes in the 7/16 thickness, but my trusses, he says, are going to be 24-inch on center. Does roof sheathing with radiant barriers work, by the way? And are they worth the extra money to keep the attic cooler? We're going for the rustic look with corrugated metal tin for the ceiling with insulation above, but I'm afraid of all the air leaks. And he wants your suggestions, Tom.
The answer is yes. If you're going to have a radiant barrier and you live in if you're going to live in the South, a radiant barrier is, to me, a must. You must have one. I never built a house from Florida to here. When I say here, I mean the Texas Gulf Coast. I've never built one without a radiant barrier, period. Now, a lot of people are under the assumption that LP is the only product out there with a radiant barrier on there. And there's a lot of history to it. I won't get into it now. And I was involved with that history all the way back to the original person that invented a thing called Cool Ply. But you can get it in different thicknesses and you can get it in plywoods. LP doesn't sell any plywood products anymore. They only sell OSB board, which is, people refer to it as particle board. It's a little more than that, but it's an oriented strand board. And so they're going to have different thicknesses, and they're not going to have a full half-inch on either plywood or the OSBs anymore. They're just a touch thinner. Now, here's the kicker to the question. You have 24-inch centers. If you're going to use that decking, you got to be really careful for two reasons. One is they'll separate in between the different rows of decking if you walk on it, so they require clips. The clips hold the two edges of the plywood together, so they'll bend together. So clips, which are not used a lot on 16-inch centers anymore, must be used on 24-inch centers. And secondly, it's usually a 5/8 plywood that most people would use, or 5/8 product on a 24-inch center spacing. So it's a structural issue. You decide how you want to do it. But if you're going to use a half-inch product, you can use a plywood, and you can get it with radiant barrier, and it's made by Georgia Pacific, not Louisiana Pacific, two major companies, domestic lumber companies, and they make the products. So you can order it, and you can order it on 5/8 too. I have a 5/8 roof decking on my house that's got the aluminum foil on there, the radiant barrier, so to speak, and it works fantastic, but I special ordered it when I built my home. And you can do that too. Unfortunately, prices today are very expensive, but the only other option I would tell you is just use a standard board. If you want to use the OSB because of price, you want to use the clips, you want to use a half-inch. I'm not going to say you can't because it's approved, but I would spray it with a radiant barrier paint when it's all open before you go ahead and close up the attic and the walls and everything. And do put the radiant barrier in with your attic ventilation and your ceiling insulation, and put the package together. And that's probably going to be the most cost-effective way for you to do it on your budget.
The old expression that, price you feel once, cheap you feel again and again. So imagine if you're going to build your house, you want to do it right. I think so, because this is a payback. Yeah, but given the added expense, Tom, even today, you would still say if you're going to put a deck on, you go with the 5/8, even today with the added cost of it.
I would, and I tell you why. If anybody walks on it or anything, and you're going to have a metal roof on there, everything's going to flex like crazy, and it could just get unsightly, or it can cause leaks because metal have joints and they can't flex. They've got to stay pretty tight. They're meant to expand and contract, but flexing on a roof deck is really bad.
All right. You want help like that? Tom will help you. Go click on the blue Ask Tom button. See, I did, and what could happen? This form came up. You fill it out. You send us a picture if you can. That helps us do a good job. We want to answer your questions the best we can. And so when you give us more information, we can do a better job, not only for you, but for everybody else who's looking for answers, because we post these every day at HomeShowRadio.com and, of course, on our YouTube channel.